Welcome to the Lafaya podcast, the podcast for people who refuse to fold in the face of adversity. Whether you're navigating personal challenges or professional obstacles, this show is a reminder that you have the power to play to win. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show again. I am super excited to have with me today one of my favorite people in the world. She's absolutely beautiful and wonderful. And I'm going to have her go ahead and introduce herself because I think that other people can introduce themselves better than I can, especially with me and my terrible memory. I might not say everything they want. Anyway, Katelyn, tell everybody about you. Like, tell them about you, what you do, and and why they should know you.
Well, hello everybody. I am just thrilled to be here. Lafaya and I go way back, and we are dear friends who, sometimes with friendship, you can go years and months, but the true friendships are the ones that it doesn't matter how much time goes by, we just pick up where we left off. That's what the beauty of a tribe, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
I was so happy that you invited me to be on this show. I'm so excited to be here with everybody. My name is Katelyn Mabry. I am an ADHD life coach that has lived a life of with a beautiful, brilliant ADHD brain, but I've not always felt that way. And so that is what brought me to be an ADHD life coach is because of my journey that I've been on. I'm currently a mama of 4 kiddos who actually are all diagnosed with ADHD and they live with it in different ways. And so I'm sure we'll get to that. I'm married to my husband for 15 years and we live in Wisconsin. And I was a teacher by trade before I became a coach. I'm a reading specialist. I'm a podcast host for a kids podcast, um, Journey with Me Through ADHD. And I'm also an author of Hi, It's Me, I Have ADHD. So lots of hats, wearing lots of hats.
Yes, and just so you know, I have to vouch for her because first of all, her children's show is absolutely fantastic. So if you have a child or you know someone who is living with ADHD or yourself are living with ADHD, I highly recommend Katelyn's show, Journey with Me Through ADHD. She kind of said it kind of fast, but we'll also have it in our show notes, guys. So everything that she's saying, don't feel like, oh my goodness, I have to rewind. No, we'll have it in our show notes. But yeah, I am and I'm sorry, and I personally read Hi, It's Me, I Have ADHD. It is a fantastic book. Like it is absolutely wonderful, so perfect for kids who need to maybe be introduced to the concept of ADHD because people don't always understand it. And sometimes when our kids receive a diagnosis, they may even feel a little shame or a little like, because they don't understand or, some fear of it. But I believe that your book is one of those books out there that will help the children to build confidence and, and all that good stuff. So everybody out there, check out that book as well because it's a good one. All right, but anyway, let's get started. As you know, guys, you may or may not know, this month is ADHD Awareness Month, and so I will be having all of my guests on will be those living with ADHD and training, teaching using their gifting that they have from that blessing to help heal others. So, anyway, Katelyn, as you know, and some others out there should know, if unless it's their first time, watching the show. My show is all about pain to power stories. So I would like for you to share with everyone something in your like what in your life is a true, and I kind of know the answer a little bit, but is a true pain to power story that you'd like to share with our guests today.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's super interesting because the really cool thing now as a coach is every time I talk to the clients that I work with, the kids and the families that I work with, a lot of times my past pain comes to the forefront, but then it turns into the powerful message that I'm able to share with them. And so to rewind a little bit, when I was 10 years old, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And I remember sitting in the car and I remember being very confused, right? My parents were trying to explain to me what this thing called ADHD was. And I remember sitting there thinking, what's wrong with me? right? There's something wrong with me. Why, what does this mean? What is, what can I do? I didn't understand it, right? And they didn't either. They did the absolute best that they could to explain it to me, but they didn't really understand it either. And so I really did walk through life knowing that I had this quote unquote label of ADHD, but not knowing what that all meant, right? So I walked through my childhood and into my teen years, and even into college, just really wrestling with some of those executive function challenges that I didn't have a name for. And I was wrestling with rejection sensitivity that I didn't yet
Yes.
have a name for, right?
Yes.
And I was wrestling with insecurities and just feeling misunderstood and feeling like I wasn't being heard and just all of these things because there was just that lack of understanding of how my brain was wired and how I learned differently and how I just moved through life differently through in friendships and relationships. And so, it really was a pain point in my life was that it was that lack of understanding was such a
Yes.
pain point. And so entering into college, I actually took a class. My undergrad I was a dual license, so early childhood special education. Always had a passion for kids with special needs, and I think part of that was that I understood that difference was something that needed to be leaned into and to celebrate the strength, you know, beneath the struggles. And
Yes.
so I had a passion for kids. I loved to work with kids. I always was babysitting and just loved to be around kids. I volunteered at church in the nursery, right? Just loved to be around kiddos. And so I got my degree as an early childhood special ed teacher. And that was the interesting thing. Always struggled in school, always a huge struggle, right? Always a BC student, struggled with testing, struggled with all that. But the second I got into my undergrad, I got a 4.0. I nailed it because it was an interest of mine, right? My interest-driven brain was just brought to the surface and it just powered me and channeled all of that strength beneath the struggles. And I was
Yes.
able to lean into that, right? And become an early childhood education teacher.
Wow. Okay, so it kind of just hits you naturally, right? Your struggles turn into your desire to just I think just be there for to help strengthen to help kind of guide and aid those children out there who are often misunderstood. So that word you use is such a huge word. Can you share with me a little bit about like what some of that would look like and in your like let's just give a couple of them in your home environment, feeling misunderstood or being misunderstood and in your school environment. Can you share a little bit of because I want people to really get it, get a picture of what that's like.
Growing up that way,
Mm-hmm,
is that,
mm-hmm.
yeah. It was just that sometimes when I was experiencing the rejection sensitivity, right, which if those of you don't know what that is, I would highly recommend looking into it because it's
Yes,
something that 98, I think, percent of us with ADHD struggle with. And this is this very intense experience with any sort of projected rejection, whether it's internal, whether it's external, whether it's perceived, right? And so I would experience that, but I would just be called overly sensitive,
yep,
right? Like you're being too sensitive, you're
yep,
being over dramatic, you're being, so I was labeled as things that I wasn't, right? Or um, that you're being lazy by not getting your room clean, right? So,
yes,
and so then I was made to feel I was starting to label myself. I had a false belief, right? I guess I'm being lazy. But
yes,
then later found out it, and this, I'm super passionate about this. I'm like, we're not lazy. We just lack momentum sometimes, and we need to put momentum makers into place, right?
yes,
And so coming up again, I just had so many different false beliefs that kind of festered just due to lack of understanding.
yes,
Um, and that just kind of traveled through and even feeling misunderstood by friends, right? Because I was quote unquote flighty or I wasn't following through with things. And it wasn't intentional. I really did want to be a good friend, but there were things that I struggled with that I didn't know I need tools and strategies for. And
yes.
so it was just led to that misunderstanding.
Oh man, okay, so you said something that was just so key. That word that in my line of work too has bugged me for so many years, that word lazy, that word lazy for, and it's clear often that the person is just really like disappointed in themselves. They feel
Mhm.
bad for not, having that, and motivation, that's a hard word too, not having the motivation, or, and I like your word better, momentum, to be able, because if a person thought of it, if they learned how to think of it that way, as, okay, I just need, I need more, I need to put things in place to gain some momentum in this area, then it becomes easier to kind of, not easy, but easier, to battle through some of those areas of challenge. And so, but I love that you spoke to just the use of that word, because that's a big mistake that many people out there are making. That's parents, that's teachers, and other, people in kind of caregiver roles are making the mistake of calling their children with challenges lazy, as opposed to seeking out a way to kind of help them gain that momentum that you speak of. And most of the time that's happening by way of delving into whatever area of interest it is, because those, ADHD brain tends towards, hyper focus on areas of interest, right? And then when there's an area of interest, they can go, 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 go. So how do you relate this thing, as many things as possible, to this area of interest? When you can do that, then that's one of the tools that you use, right? To kind of help
Exactly.
a kid, to help someone out. I keep saying a kid, but there are adults diagnosed with ADHD as well.
Absolutely.
And so,
Yep.
and they need some of the same. This is a strengths based approach. So, oh,
Mhm.
that's awesome. That's awesome. That's wonderful. Okay, now in school, now you said your grades, you stayed around a BC student, and I know some that they may struggle even more than that. Maybe they have less support, or uh, for whatever reason, they just, their grades are lower than that. But in school, what kind of experiences did you have there with, like, with teachers? Where, did you often get into trouble, or did they make accusations that weren't true, or what did you deal with in school?
I mean, when I think back, I was very blessed with the teachers that I had. I was there were a few years where I felt like I fell through the cracks a little bit because I was actually a child that was very compliant. I was very, I was a rule follower. But I was also the child that had on the report card, Caitlin likes to be chatty. Caitlin likes to talk a lot. Caitlin looks out the window. Like I was still distracted and I still had a hard time not keeping my mouth shut when my friends were around me. So I think I know there's even, little memes out there. We all know that sometimes that can be a thing, right? We have lots of busy thoughts that we want to share with our friends during the school day.
They go from here to here
Um,
a little faster than
Yep.
that
Yep. So
filter
I
was.
mean, yeah, exactly. So I think there was some of the shaming, right? Like, Caitlin, stop talking. But like, and there, I remember feeling like, um, what's wrong with me was a big false belief that ran through my head through school, right? And for a few reasons, right? Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I keep my mouth shut? What's wrong with me that, I can't stay focused? Like instead of having um like a problem solving strategy, I would just pin it, like I would just kind of put it on myself as what, why can't I do this better? Why am I not smarter at this? Why, like I would kind of become my own inner bully just
Yeah.
based on reactions of other or misunderstanding of others, right? In terms of, a comment that felt like shame or, body language that felt like rejection, so
Yes.
I mean, in
Yes.
terms of school, I think that kind of happened just in general. Um,
What were
but
some? Can I ask? What were some of the things, because you mentioned being blessed in your school environment, and it's also nice to kind of be that more compliant child versus, right, the kind of more
yeah,
strong-willed, you know.
yeah.
But what were some of the best things that you can remember that your teachers were able to do for you, or to be supportive of you?
I remember they would, one teacher gave me alternate seating. they would let me like get up and move around, and like, so they were supportive of my desire to move.
Yes.
I had one teacher, I'll never forget, my fourth grade teacher. He was the best. And he had this loft, and he would, if I felt, the urge to move around, or he would kind of, I remember he'd be like, Keelan, why don't you go read a book in the loft? So I just had very, a lot of my teachers from and maybe that's my memory protecting myself, but the good memories I have from the school years, what were teachers that, you know, they did know my diagnosis, and they did see, a handful of them did see that that I had some of these needs and would accommodate in the classroom by, giving me smaller amounts of work, or, and there was a willingness there. And I know this too, because my parents have said it too. They're like, you were very blessed with most of your teachers were actually very accommodating to us coming in and saying this, this is something she struggles with. Which I know isn't always the case, but which is also a reason why I'm really passionate. Not only do I coach children and families, but I also love to bridge the gap between home and school if
Yes.
there's ever that misunderstanding or that lack of understanding, of the layers, right? Because it's not just that we're, we have this abundance of focus that we can't, focus in on one thing. It's not just that we're hyper, or like there's so much stigma around ADHD, and it's very, a lot of times surface level of what the struggles are, but there's so many layered struggles that are beneath the surface that need to be
Yes.
brought to light, even just regulation in general, right?
Yes.
Just helping kids regulate their time, their attention, their emotions, their just all of those things are constantly in need of regulation. And so,
Yes.
recognizing that is just so huge.
Yes. Oh, that's so key. That's so important when you think about it, like the layers and to an onion, right?
Mhm.
When you keep peeling back, there's still more to go, right? And it's
Yeah.
so important for people to recognize and see it as that. Now, you mentioned that you have four kiddos, four, all diagnosed with ADHD, and of course, exhibiting themselves in different, and
In all
the
different ways.
characteristics exhibiting themselves in different ways because these are different people, right?
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
talking about playing the hand that you're dealt in life. Okay, what are like some of the keys? Because to your sanity, you look good, girl. Like how how are you doing it? Like
Oh,
what are some little nuggets you can give out there for some of our parents out there?
living on a prayer, Lafaya, living on a prayer.
So good songs.
um,
So
um, no, I mean, honestly, it's so interesting because, I think about this often. I'm like, wow, I have four children who all have these beautiful, brilliant, busy brains, just like I do. What a what a gift to be able to connect with them in
yes,
such a deep way, right? I mean, it's so interesting. The pediatrician, when my 7-year-old was diagnosed this last year, he's like, your kids are the only kids that get excited about a diagnosis. Because I've shed all shame from it, right? Like it's something where I'm like, we get to understand our brains better, And so, and that's the biggest thing is it's so much about presentation when it comes
yes,
to, helping kids understand their brain and, presenting it as an opportunity. Like not
yes,
everybody gets to know how their brain is wired, and everybody has these uniquely built brains, right? We're all
right,
created differently. And so, but we actually have more information on the way that our brain works differently. And so we can, tackle the tough stuff. But then guess what? There's also some really cool things about how our brains are wired. And we can use those cool things to live and love, in really cool ways.
yes,
And so, yeah, so we just really in our house try to build up the strengths as we battle the struggles, and name the struggles, because that's, I think, the biggest thing. I never growing up had names for what I was struggling with, right? Like it
Yes.
was a struggle, but I didn't know why. And so I always say we want to explore. It's never an excuse, right? We always just want to explore the why. Like explore why our emotions are getting so big and what we can do to practice, responding to them a little bit better next time. And so it's just a constant that mindset of learning and growing through the tough stuff while celebrating our strengths and our differences.
Oh my goodness, that's so exciting. I was just, I don't know. These people you can't see my lower body. I'm like tapping my feet. I'm excited. I'm excited about what it is you're talking about because it is so very important. That presentation is so important. When we take the shame and the stigma away from, some of from diagnoses and get to the human and say, okay, this you can turn this particular trait, you can turn into maybe like your somewhat like superpower. And this trait over here, this trait over here, okay, there will be some challenges there, so we have to keep an eye out. We have to stay aware that that's happening in us, so that when it happens, it's not a terrible thing, it's just a thing, right? Okay, I know I'm rejection sensitive. So when your heart is feeling broken, in a situation where you have perceived something to be a rejection, right? You can
Mhm.
say to yourself, "Oh, wait, okay, yeah, this happens. Yep, I tend towards rejection sensitivity,
Mhm.
right? Not that you won't magically feel like like you're skipping through a meadow or anything, but
Right.
it does take the intensity of it, like you were talking about, and it shrinks it. I talk about shrinking the either the beast or the whatever you want to call it, shrinking the little monster inside, or
Mhm.
shrinking it, or always I have all these different names, whatever you want to call it. For me personally, I'm like shrinking because you want to take this thing that could like override and overwhelm you, take over your whole body, and
Mhm.
just systematically like shrink it smaller and smaller. Not that it goes away, it's still there, right?
Right.
But smaller and smaller until all of a sudden one day it's like presenting like a little ant that's jumping up and down. Same little monster, less power,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, and
Right?
that's why exposing it is so powerful, right? There's
Yes.
just so much power in exposing. I mean, just the other day, my 13-year-old came home and she was just really having a hard time with some friends and this situation during lunch. And I said, "Oh, love, it sounds like you're experiencing rejection sensitivity. And this is what it
Yes.
looks like, and this is what it feels like. And now let's talk about the truth behind it. What is the truth behind it? Do you truly believe that all of those girls hate you? Well, no, I don't think they hate. So then we were able to shrink it, right? So it
Yes.
felt so big in her world, and we were able to talk, like name it, claim it,
Yes.
tame it, and then we started reframing it. And then the next day at lunch, she was like, "Mom,
Wait,
that went so much better."
did you do that on purpose? She said, name it, claim it, tame it, and wait, name it, claim it, tame it, and re something. Wait, what's that last?
Reframe it.
Reframe it. Oh,
Oops.
did you do that on purpose? 'Cause that right
I did.
there, okay, now that should be on the wall.
I know. It's one of my favorite coaching tips.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is absolutely beautiful. Like that captures everything. Right. It, you know what? If you're just tuning in right now at this point right here, what she just said is everything. Like we don't. That's mic drop. We don't. No. Such a big deal. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna be using that.
Right. Use
I'll give you
it.
credit, but I'm using that.
No
But anyway,
worries. It's
but
all yours.
name it, claim it, tame it, and reframe it. Absolutely beautiful because there's so much truth in that. And you know a little bit of my history too, but my daughter on the spectrum, and that's all in my middle son, and that's what we've done their entire lives is always keep them aware. Our household of very different people, all have always known that. So sometimes we've taken the word weird and we've made that our like we own that,
Own it.
like weird does not has never made my children feel bad. They would say things like, "You're weird," and my kids would be like, "Yeah, I know you."
Very aware.
Often you don't even know the half. but such is so very, very important to train and teach our kids, and actually, you know what, kind of give ourselves that same grace as well, to be
Hmm.
able to stop, understand what's going, really stop and understand what's going on with ourselves, and not make it a bad thing. Turn it, shift it into your good. You don't have to hate that thing. We don't have to hate rejection sensitivity. We just have
Right.
to know that it exists, it's there, and if it's a part of us, then we can't hate that thing, because if we hate that thing, then that turns on ourselves, right? We to hate
Right.
that thing is to hate ourselves. And so if we
Correct.
learn how to embrace that thing and say, okay,
Hmm.
you know what? I know you're here. We can be loving even towards rejection sensitivity. I know you're here, but I can't let you have all the power, because it makes us unhappy. So I need you to kind of find your spot where you belong in here. We're just gonna put you right over here. you know, so that we can
That's so
continue, so
funny.
we can live our good lives.
That's right.
Is an absolutely powerful powerful thing to be. I'm always putting form to stuff. Like I always want to take it and turn it into something that you can grab a hold of. I believe you're true. You love to do that as well. To be able to grab a hold of something takes the power away from it. I mean, it takes the power,
Mhm.
so that so it at least decreases its power over you, to be able to take a
Right.
hold. But if there's nothing to grab, if there's no way to understand what's going on, then that thing is just you. Oh man.
Right. Well, and that's why I always say being transparency is transformational.
Yes.
Right? Because
Yes.
when we're transparent about things, that's when we can see transformation happen. Right? Because
Yes.
if we hold it all in, it's
Hold it
hard to
and
make a
hide it, huh?
change. Right? We don't want to hold it and hide it. We want to let it out and expose it so that
Yeah.
we can transform it.
Yes. Don't let
So,
that thing hide away in darkness. Always bring it to the light. Because when you bring it to
mm,
the light, now you can see it, and there's something that you can do about it. But there's
amen.
nothing that you can do about something you can't see.
That's true. Very true.
It's like grasping at air.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So, Caitlin, I knew it was gonna be fantastic talking to you. Every time I talk to you, I learn something. So I really appreciate you coming and joining me on my episode today. Um, are there any final points that you want to leave our guests with today?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is just continue to give yourself grace and be your own biggest cheerleader because we tend to be our biggest bully sometimes. And I think it's just so important to speak back to that inner child that's saying, I don't want to do this, and be that gentle parent and that kind voice that says, it's okay, you're gonna be stronger from this. We're gonna make we're the most beautiful things grow in valleys, right? That's been my biggest thing lately. I saw this thing that said I saw this whole video about how flowers grow the best in valleys. And I think about that often, and I talk to my kids about that. I'm like, you know what? When we're feeling like we're in a valley, let's think about what flowers can grow in that valley, right? What beauty can we see in this shadow, right? Like what can we take from this? How can we grow from this? How can we develop from this? And so I think that kind of goes back to why we're here, right? Talking about how we can take our pain and make it a powerful tool for
Yes,
for change for the future. And I just think that's such a cool visual is
yes,
just, seeing the flowers in the valley.
yes.
So yeah.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. Okay, so as a recap, I'm going to repeat it again because it's worth repeating. Okay, so name it, claim it, tame it, reframe it. Okay,
Huh?
I'm going to leave you with that because there's power, guys. There's power in understanding what's going on with you, understanding the real truth, right?
Hmm.
And then responding in a way that is gracious to yourself. Because the
Hmm.
last thing we want is to be our own bullies. The last thing we want is to carry on a tradition that we never, first of all, put in for.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's a terrible thing to become to take all of the hurt that you have from being misunderstood by others, and now you're carrying that on yourself, as opposed to, I'm going to let go of this old baggage. I'm not carrying this on any further in my life, and I'm going to be my own best cheerleader. Absolutely fantastic. Hold on, Katelyn, can you hear me? Because you froze. Oh no. Oh, are you back?
Yeah, at least it's the end.
Okay. Yep. Yep. And that okay.
Yep.
So
Can you hear me?
okay. So it froze. Okay. So that's
Okay,
okay. We can edit that part out. Okay. So
good.
fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today, Katelyn. Such a wealth of wisdom. Can you tell everybody the best way to reach you?
Yeah, thanks. Well, everybody can see me on Instagram at Journey with Me through ADHD and underscore in between each word. Or my website, www.katelynmabry.com. You can find my book there, find my podcast link there. Check out my podcast on any platform, Journey with Me through ADHD. It's a great avenue to just explore the, ADHD journey that you're on with your child and show it to the teachers use it.
Yes.
So social workers use it. I have psychologists who use it. So it's meant to be just a nice resource to facilitate some really helpful conversation with kiddos.
Yes, absolutely wonderful.
So
And guys, all of that information will also be in our show notes. And like I said, just thank you so much for blessing my show with your presence. I really appreciate you so much. Um,
thank
and
you.
and guys out there, I want you to keep in mind that it's not about the hand you're dealt. It's about how you play it. Play it well. Play like Caitlin. Have a good one. See you soon.
Thank you. See you later. Bye.
Please like, subscribe, share, and comment. And if you're interested in learning more about playing the hand you're dealt in this mental game of life, you'll love my book, Poker, A Woman's Game. To download your free chapter today, click on the link in our show notes or visit lafayawaypoker.com. See you soon.